SuperTalk Mississippi media production. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C-Spire. Power your home or business with C-Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C-Spire. C-Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. Hello. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Everyone, and welcome to MidDays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday, y'all.
The Friday after Christmas, y'all. How about
Boxing Day, y'all.
Well, how was it? You made it back to Tupelo and have returned.
Got to spend some time with friends and family and ate some good food and had some time to just think on the road because that's a 3-hour drive just about any way you cut it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a good Christmas. How about yours?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, the weather. I mean, it's just weird. It was like summertime. It could be either way, right, in Mississippi at Christmas. I remember past Christmases scurrying from the vehicle into the church on Christmas Eve Mass. But this time, I noticed that, and we always go to the 4 o'clock Mass, which is typically kind of intended for the children. They call it the Children's Mass. And I noticed a bunch of children were in shorts, which is fine because it was hot. How weird is that? But it was beautiful, gorgeous. And yesterday as well, and still that warmth is hanging around, expected to get a little cooler next week, I believe. And it should because it's December. Certainly wasn't a white Christmas around here. But have you seen the forecast for record snowfall in New York? Predicting that, right? Supposed to have a record snow, like a nor'easter is about to blanket the north and the eastern part, the northeastern part, and the eastern seaboard of the United States, and that is causing some travel headaches as well. But you didn't happen to buy a Powerball ticket in Arkansas, did you?
No, I did not win once again.
Well, the winner hasn't come forward yet. But a ticket was sold in Arkansas that did score.
Single winner this time.
Single winner, the big Christmas Powerball jackpot of $1.8 billion. How about that? $1.8 billion. This is one of the richest lottery prizes in U.S. history. If I'm not mistaken, that'd be like number 2 of all-time prizes. Powerball tickets, of course, cost $2 each. And this lucky winner can choose between $1.8 billion payout over 29 years or a lump sum of only $834.9 million. That, of course, before taxes.
That was the number 2 largest jackpot ahead of the number 3 largest jackpot, which was set in September.
Right. And the number 2, like in 2022 or something like that, as I recall?
Number 1 was November 2022.
That's what I mean. Number 1, yeah.
$2 billion.
Got you. And that was a split one, was it not?
No, that was a single winner.
That was a single. Okay, maybe it's
number 3 was the one that was split between Missouri and Texas.
In Texas, yeah. Got you. All right. Got all that straight. So, yeah, $2.04 billion was won in California in 2022. Interesting. So somebody had them a pretty good Christmas with $1.8 billion. That is amazing. The winning numbers, just in case somebody out there listening is holding them, 4, 25, 31, 52, 59, and the Powerball of 19. They were drawn about 11 o'clock Wednesday night. The odds, by the way, of hitting the big jackpot, 1 in 292.2 million. Huh. How about that? Well, did you get everything you wanted for Christmas? That's the most important thing, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had a good one as well. So my children joined in to give me a very useful and functional gift. It's a new chair, office chair for my home office. I think they felt sorry for me after both of them having used my system for some work matters over the last month or so and said, Dad, you need a new chair. They're right. It was in a bit of disrepair, but that's one of those things you just keep putting off. You know you need it.
So did you get like an executive chair? Or did you get a gaming chair?
Yeah, it's kind of an executive chair with armrests on it, and it has it's a roller chair. I've got a little mat at my house. And it's got the hydraulic lifts up and down, swivels, all that.
I guess I should break it down. Does it look more like a recliner or more like a sports car seat?
More like a recliner. Yeah, it's kind of a classic sort of office chair with maybe a little bit more in the back to it. I guess the seat though, pretty common deal. So I got to put that together now. Of course, got a little work to do there.
Some assembly required.
Some assembly required. Indeed. But overall, it was a good one. Now, it's customary for me to always tune in to 2 Christmas television series shows. One of those is Andy Griffith, and the other is MASH. The Andy Griffith episode, I'm sure many folks have seen that one. It's old crotchety Ben that owns the hardware store down the street, and Ben is, I guess, alone at Christmas, and there's nothing worse than that, right? And he's peeking in on all the Christmas cheer occurring in the sheriff's jail there, where the sheriff has the deputy, and of course they're probably working, right? They're sheriff and deputy patrolling. Aunt B comes down. And he's got a couple that he arrested for moonshine. And they bring their children down as well because they're locked up. And of course, Opie, Aunt B. And, gosh, I can't remember who was the young lady was that. That wasn't Opie's teacher. No, she was the druggist, wasn't she? I can't remember her name. But anyhow, they're all in the jail there. And that's where they're going to enjoy Christmas dinner. And Ben is peeking in the scene, standing on some wooden boxes, looking in the jail through the window pretty high up. That's why he's got to stand on boxes to see it. You can clearly see the bars. And you can tell he wants to be part of it. So he keeps trying to get himself locked up, but the sheriff's just letting him try to be generous. No, it's Christmas. I'm not going to lock you up. Just behave yourself, Ben. And finally, while they're serving the meal and the eggnog and so forth, and Barney comes out in his Santa outfit, they hear some noise outside the window, and Barney goes out to check it, and there's Ben, and he's falling off the boxes, and then Barney doesn't show up. So they asked him, go see where he is. Asked Andy, go see where he is. And he goes out there, and it's Ben. And I don't remember the exact script, but I declare, Ben, if I didn't know better, I think you're trying to get yourself locked up. Oh, and Ben says, oh, don't you be thinking about that. In fact, that's what he was trying to do. Goes down to the hardware store before the sheriff locks him up, brings him into the jail there, and he's got a big suitcase full of gifts, and he's playing Santa Claus. It's heartwarming. It's pretty neat. He just wanted to be part of a family. I mean, that's the essence of Christmas.
Yeah, it's like a different take on A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's a good point. Maybe that was the inspiration for the writers. Probably was. But he kind of shows his softer side, his human side. And he comes back and he's giving those gifts out. Well, I must have mistook this for my shaving razor. It's a pair of skates, you know. That's pretty good. I don't have any use for those. What is this doll? How'd that get in here? It's really well done. 1960. 1960, man. And then the other, of course, one of my favorite MASH episodes entitled Death Takes a Holiday. Really, really good. I think that may have been 1981, the Christmas episode there. Well, we're stepping aside for a break. At 10:35, it's Rochelle Hicks, director of Visit Mississippi. She'll talk about the float, the Mississippi float, and the upcoming Rose Parade. Caleb Sailors with SuperTalk Mississippi News at 11:20, and State Senator Brice Wiggins will join us at 12:05. We're just getting started in the Element Wealth Studio.
If you're feeling anxious about your...
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Bring it on! Middays with Gerard Gibert. It is on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Yes, the extremely recognizable theme song from what I consider the best television series of all time, MASH. Title of that tune, of course, Suicide is Painless. This MASH episode, many critics consider the best ever that was ever produced in the series, which ran for a long time. I don't remember. 83, I think, is when it went off the air. Started, 75, 76, something like that. Death Takes a Holiday.
Yeah, 11 seasons and 11 years.
Gotcha.
251 episodes.
Man, incredible. I said it was 1981. I think it was actually 1980.
Yeah, December 15th, 1980 when it aired.
Yeah. So, but in the episode, I mean, they're so good when they wrote these shows to combine some degree of humor with real serious matters. And don't you think, Rhino, that I think the goal there was to just show the lunacy of war? That was one thing, and how it's all around you in their circumstances and constantly staring and dealing with death of young people needlessly, by the way, in my view. It's kind of the juxtaposition of that and trying to stay sane in that environment. I don't think that was too terribly different than reality, probably, working in a MASH unit where you're being thrust in as a medical professional into this, what did Hawkeye and BJ always call it? Meatball surgery, I think. But this was so well done when they're trying to provide some degree of Christmas celebration to orphans. And it's something you don't think about is how war produces orphans. And so you got Mr. Ho there that's trying to take care of a bunch of these orphans, brings them to the 4077. And it's so good that they're real hesitant to engage at first. You know, they're sitting in the little cart there, and he tells them, it's uniforms. They're scared of uniforms. And Klinger, of course, who spent his entire career trying to get out, I don't like uniforms either, starts disrobing there for the kids and gets them a break. But, of course, Winchester, from Boston, an affluent surgeon from an affluent family. It's a custom in his family to bring chocolates from a chocolatier in Boston, expensive chocolates, to the impoverished. And so he does the same, but it's got to be done anonymously. And then he finds out, he sees, Rizzo at the party eating the chocolates. What the heck, And he goes over to Mr. Ho and brings him outside. He's mad at him. He starts dressing him down. What did you do with the chocolates? And he finally tells him, we sold them on the black market, that the money that produced from the sale would allow the orphanage to buy enough rice and cabbage to feed the kids for a month. And it's a powerful moment. And he apologizes. I know I've failed to carry out your family tradition of not disclosing the donor and to ensure that the kids get these sweet treats. And then Charles realizes, no, on the contrary, it is I who should be sorry. It is sadly inappropriate to give dessert to a child who hasn't had no meal. Man, that was just really good. But Max Klinger, of course, in the tent, is overhearing this conversation. And then Charles, I think, feeling a bit depressed about the whole thing, goes back to the swamp by himself. And then Max shows up with a cart and a meal of Lebanese-oriented food and serves it. Of course, Charles, what the heck, But then on the way out, Charles says, actually Klinger says, there's just one catch. Charles says, and what, pray tell, is the catch? And he said, the source of this Christmas dinner must remain anonymous. It's an old family tradition. And that's with Charles having his back to Max. It was just so perfectly portrayed and directed. And then Charles turns around, head kind of bent, thank you, Max, and kind of a soft voice. And that's like maybe one of the only times where you see him kind of admit, we're just human beings here. It's not, I'm a major doctor and you're just a company clerk, corporal. We're just human beings dealing with inhuman circumstances and putting all that aside. I just thought that was neat, how they did that. So just a little bit of television anecdotes there for this day after Christmas. I just thought I think both of those shows really do a great job of showing the true meaning of human spirit, human kindness, and the need for us humans to interact, associate, and be with one another. And that's just really what Christmas is all about. And we need more days like that, don't we? We really do. If it's because it just, we build up to it, it comes, and then it goes, and then, it's back to the normal grind. And I get it. That's what we got to do. But Christmas is for families. And God bless all those out there who are missing their loved ones. I know you are. I am. Virtually everybody out there listening to us, I'm sure, has loved ones that aren't with them. Some cases it's for several years. In some cases it's maybe the first year, the first Christmas, which is arguably the hardest. We always enjoy Christmas with old family friends that are Asian Americans, old Mississippi family, salt of the earth, great people. And it's been our tradition for many years. After we have our little Christmas at our house, we head over there and we enjoy a great meal with the families. And, through the years, there's been some of the older folks have left us for their heavenly rewards. And I was thinking about that yesterday, the days when they were with us. But you know what? The younger folks have reproduced. So now we got a bunch of little kids running around, which is just so neat. Isn't that just the cycle of life, though? And I guess when you have a Christmas setting like that, it kind of reminds you of it. But to you guys out there, that are dealing with the loss of loved ones, and I know that makes Christmas extra hard. God bless you. And God be with us. It's hard to believe, Rhino, but in less than 2 weeks, you and I will be talking about all that legislation stuff. And we got Senator Brice Wiggins, as you heard us tease when we bumped out of the first segment, coming on with us today at 12:05 to share his plans and his priorities. The lieutenant governor, the speaker, they have shared those as well. And by the way, Caleb Sailors, who's coming on with us here at 11:20, he published a nice piece at SuperTalk.fm, our main site. This was just 4 days ago, December 22nd, where he highlights the legislative priorities espoused by the speaker, by the lieutenant governor. One of those is teacher pay. At least the lieutenant governor has highlighted that. He says that this coming year will present a great opportunity for lawmakers to address teacher pay, not only for K through 12, but also community college professors, to keep Mississippi from experiencing a continued loss of educators. Caleb reports 7,000 vacancies among teachers, administrators, school support staff across the state. I've seen 6,000, but nonetheless, it's a bunch. And so while it's true that we did enact legislation increasing teacher pay in 22, the other states are busy doing the same, so we've fallen behind the lot once again. So this is something I feel certain our legislators will address this coming year. Mississippi teachers who have been in the business for many years have an average salary of about $53K. Nationally, it's $72K. And then even if you adjust that for the cost of living, we're still $9,000 to $10,000 below. You can't deny it, man. Money is a big factor. It's not the only factor when one chooses employment or chooses to remain employed wherever they're working, but it is definitely a factor. We're stepping aside for a break, coming right back with Rochelle Hicks, director of Visit Mississippi. Stay with us.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We appreciate you joining us on this Friday after Christmas. We welcome now Rochelle Hicks, director of Visit Mississippi. Hey, Rochelle.
Good morning, Gerard. How are you?
Doing fantastic on this day after Christmas. We're just lightening it up a little bit, and we wanted to have you come on and talk about the Mississippi float that's going to be featured in the upcoming Rose Parade. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we're super excited. I think last year I was live with you from the actual Rose Parade a little bit after when we were at our Float Fest event. So excited to be on here and share with you and all the viewers what we have planned for this year's float. Our theme this year is called Where Creativity Blooms. That is to celebrate our visual, literary, musical, and cinematic arts in Mississippi, really wanting to share our creative spirit with the world.
Yeah. So what was the inspiration here, Rochelle? What's behind the scenes? I'm looking at a rendering of it. It looks really neat.
Yeah, so, last year we focused on our music because last year we kicked off our Birthplace of America's Music campaign on January 1st. So our float, really tied in with that. This year, our theme for Visit Mississippi overall marketing is going to be culinary and celebrating our culinary assets in the state. But we really were trying to think of something that's visually appealing that really speaks to what somebody could come and see and do in Mississippi. So we thought, we're so known for all of our creative arts that we have in our state. We're rich with creativity. And so we're like, why don't we focus on that? So you'll see, if you haven't seen the picture of the float, go check out our socials and our website, and you'll see. But we have a giant Kermit the Frog, and some people may wonder, why do we have a giant Kermit the Frog on our float? So, Kermit was created by Jim Henson, who's from Leland, Mississippi, and in Leland there also is the birthplace of Kermit the Frog Museum that I highly encourage everybody to go check out if you have not before. So we just started, scheming and dreaming and thinking, like, wouldn't it be cool if we were able to have Kermit? So we asked Disney for permission, and they were gracious enough to allow us to use Kermit's likeness on the float. So, of course, one of the most iconic scenes of Kermit is when he's strumming the banjo. So that's what we decided to do, and so he's going to be strumming the banjo. So we're super excited.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the rules about the actual construction and the finish of the floats? I know the Rose Parade is they're really sticklers on sticking with the theme, right, of flowers.
Yes, so it was really amazing to be out there last year and see it up close and personal, because every single place on the float has to be covered in some type of floral material, whether it be seeds. Last year, not our float, but there was a float that had like a rock wall that was made of potatoes. I mean, every single surface has to be covered. Yeah, it's
That's
amazing.
Awesome.
How creative they are. So even the railing where the entertainers or whoever the riders are on the float, even the railing has to be covered in some type of seed. So it is, it's really amazing to see, and we can't wait to see the float come to life. Again, if you go check out our socials, you can see some of the behind the scenes videos and photos that they've shared with us so far. But like when you see, we're really excited about having Charlie Worsham from Grenada, Mississippi. 2024 CMA Musician of the Year is going to be our entertainer on the float. And he's standing on a stage, so to speak, that has a Walter Anderson mural all around the front. And so far, some of the images that we've seen, seeing that Walter Anderson mural come to life is just absolutely incredible with the different materials that they use.
Well, there's a good news, bad news thing here. The good news is we got so much content to choose from when you think about this theme, because Mississippi is just known for super creative people that really transcends all the arts. But the bad news is, how do you choose? How do you pick? You can't just get that done on one float.
Wow. That's the $1 million question. I mean, we really struggled with there are so many things. You'll notice on the float when you get a chance to look at it that there's a directional sign.
Yeah.
And we actually did that so that we could kind of showcase some of the places that a visitor could come and see. You'll see that we have Roanoke, home of William Faulkner, the birthplace of Kermit the Frog in Leland, the Mississippi Arts and Entertainment Experience in Meridian, the Lauren Rogers Museum of Art in Laurel, the USA International Ballet Competition, the Orr O'Keefe Museum of Art in Biloxi, and the Mississippi Writers Trail, which is a Visit Mississippi program that's statewide. But a lot of people will wonder why there's two ballerinas on the float, and that is because the USA International Ballet Competition that's held in Jackson, Mississippi every 4 years is the only place in the United States that is held. So, we just are really trying to showcase all the great ways that Mississippi contributes to the world, really.
It looks great, no doubt about it. And just looking at the piece that is on the back of the float that's just above the directional sign and on top of the books, you're sort of showcasing all the various artistic talents of Mississippians there. Film, microphone, the typewriter for our writers, instruments, and so forth. That's just really neat. And of course, the beautiful river and the bridge there above it. What do you think, Rochelle? Are we are we exposing the world, or certainly the West Coast and Los Angeles parade goers, but really the world when you consider that this thing is broadcast on television live to what Mississippi's all about?
A lot of people... Absolutely, Gerard. That's our job at Visit Mississippi, is really to promote the state as a travel destination. And we do that in lots of ways, but we felt like this is a great opportunity for us because there's not a lot of things that we're able to do with our budget size that allows us to be on a national stage. We can't have a Super Bowl ad, but, I grew up watching the Rose Parade every day, and there's over 28 million TV viewers.
Wow.
That doesn't even count the people that are streaming it online in 60 different countries. There's 800,000 people along the parade route. There's 72,000 people that get to come see the float up close and personal after the parade at an event they hold called Float Fest. So we just feel like this puts us on a national stage in ways that we've never been able to do before. And we're really proud of it. And we hope that the people that see it are like, wow, I didn't know that about Mississippi. I need to go check that out.
And isn't that the refrain we constantly hear? I didn't know that about Mississippi. I think to some extent, media, Hollywood has created this image of the state that is very shallow and not really consistent with reality. And then when people get exposed to the truth, they're just blown away. I mean, that's been certainly my experience, even from traveling the country of business. I didn't know that about Mississippi, and it makes you proud. I kind of like the idea of poking our chest out a little bit and pushing our feathers out to brag.
Well, we do too. I mean, we were really blown away by the support that we got, from our partners all around the state last year. We were so focused on the float and really showcasing it to, people all over the world that we really weren't even thinking about what an impact it would make here in our state with the pride that people felt. And, last year we were lucky enough. It was totally a fluke thing. We had no idea that the sonic boom was going to be there. So once we knew, we asked if we could, have them close to our float and vice versa. And, we just felt like Mississippi just was shining all day in that parade. And the people in the stands, I mean, it was really electric when the sonic boom came through. People just went wild, and people around us that had no idea we were from Mississippi were like, wow, that's one of the coolest things we've ever seen. And then, having Elvis and B.B. King rolling down, Colorado Boulevard on our float was just, people know them, but a lot of times they don't know that they're from Mississippi. So we just feel like this gives us a great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the good work you guys do. So what else you guys going on at Visit Mississippi? We're approaching a new year. Any particular plans?
Well, we're super excited to roll out our new culinary campaign. We'll have new culinary commercials that will be coming out January 1st. We've been really proud of, celebrating our Michelin chefs. We had 10 Mississippi chefs and restaurants that were recognized recently at an event that we were a part of in South Carolina, So we are excited to really showcase our culinary talents. Just kind of along the lines of what we've been talking about, people don't realize all the incredible food culture that we have here in our state, and we want to really showcase that. So we're excited to roll that out on January 1st. And also, just like you said, celebrating our wins. And we're really proud that in 2024, we had 44.2 million visitors to Mississippi, which is 11.9 billion with a B in
awesome.
visitor spending.
Yeah.
So, we're just trying to continue to grow those numbers and bring more people to Mississippi who've never been here.
Sounds fantastic. Looking forward to another successful year in 2026 for Visit Mississippi. We've been visiting with Rochelle Hicks, the director of Visit Mississippi. Thanks, Rochelle. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Gerard. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Coming right back.
Hey, this is Bob.
Now back to Middays with Gerard here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Her eyes as black as night now. Oh, so shade gives a smile when the pain comes.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. Yeah, it was Ellie. She was a druggist there in Mayberry. I knew she was a druggist. I just couldn't remember her name. But, yeah, just reminiscing a little bit about those old programs that I think really captured the spirit of Christmas quite well. So, the other day we got into a discussion earlier this week about the low fertility rate in this country and really across the world and the consequences of that. Well, there's a Russian billionaire. He's fighting global infertility on his own with 100 of his own offspring. 100.
Well, they couldn't let Elon Musk show him up.
Pavel Durov is his name. He is founder of the messaging app Telegram. I haven't even heard of that. You heard of that one? Social media tool?
It's pretty popular in Asia.
Okay.
It's worldwide, but it's most popular in Asia.
Okay. So,
from what I remember,
on social media, he donated his sperm to a fertility clinic in Moscow. In response to an unusual marketing campaign, free sperm. This is just weird. And at conferences, social media, the clinic that he donated his sperm to described Durov as having, quote, high genetic compatibility, and noted he would pay for in vitro fertilization for women under 37 who wanted to use his, quote, in-demand sperm. How about that? A banner on the website of the clinic called Ultra Vita still advertises his biomaterial next to a photo of the CEO and a Telegram logo. The patients who came in, they all look great. We're all educated and very healthy, said a former doctor at the clinic who examined several volunteers. How about that? Taking matters into his own hands to address the infertility problem. That's really something.
Well, it's not so much that Republicans. Gosh, it's not such a problem in Russia that reproduction. There we go. I finally got all the right words.
Yeah.
Is on the downslope. I don't think they're one of the countries that's really been struggling with the fertility crisis. They've just lost a whole bunch of people fighting in Ukraine.
Yeah, that is true. Needlessly, once again, stupid war. All about one man's selfishness and obsession and narcissism. Putin. A good story to share that I think also very much captures the spirit of Christmas, which is the season of giving. That's what Christ teaches us. And we are celebrating Christmas. A business owner, Minden, Louisiana. You seen this? This is according to the New York Post. This company is called Firebond, and it was just acquired. They have 540 full-time employees. I think the company fetched, if I'm not mistaken, more than $1 billion for its sale to the acquirer, and the CEO is doling out bonuses to the employees, 540 of them, averaging, get this, $443,000 per worker. He made it a condition of the sale to the acquirer that $240 million would be earmarked for that purpose. He sold the company to Eaton. So that represents, by the way, 15%. So, yeah, I knew it was more than $1 billion, so that puts it in nearly $3 billion range. How about that? $443,000 per employee he pushed out in the form of a bonus to his 540 employees. The company was founded in 1982 by this individual's father. It's pretty neat. But I thought CEOs were just selfish, right? They don't share, and they're just inhuman. We're taking a break right now from the Element Wealth studio. Fox News, SuperTalk News, then 2 hours of middays.
Hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 2 of Middays from the Element Wealth studio on this
Friday, y'all.
Mose on the C Spire text line says, I predict the House will narrowly pass a school choice and overwhelmingly pass a voter initiative, but I believe both will be a few votes short in the Senate. So, honestly, Mose, if a school choice bill gets sent down to the Senate using the procession that Rhino has designed for such purpose of transmitting measures from one chamber to another down the hall, it would be an accomplishment, Rhino, if it actually fell a few votes short, because that would mean that it made it out of committee. Senator Dennis DeBar's committee, who still won't come on the show, and talk about everything related to education, anything related to education. He chairs the Education Committee in the Senate, and it's always appropriate to point out education represents over half of the general fund budget. So he serves as the chairman of the committee that takes up legislation pertaining to more than half of the budget. And anytime school choice legislation has proceeded out of the House using the one-eyed cyclops, and you got anything new you're adding to it this year? Just a one-eyed cyclops and what else?
We had the guy with the 12-foot tall unicycle with the Uncle Sam outfit. I mean, he auditioned.
I like that.
We just got to make the decision on whether or not he's going to join the team.
He might have to duck to get in some of those rooms in there. But I don't know. Maybe that's what we need to change the luck, right, is transmit the school choice bill from the House to the Senate using the Patriot on the Uncle Sam on the unicycle there. But the point is, as you know, that's where it goes to die in the Senate, particularly and specifically in the Senate Education Committee, where Senator DeBar has routinely pocket vetoed such legislation. So, Mose, we got to get it out of the committee first, is the point. And my feeling, Rhino, is it won't come out of committee unless the votes are there in the Senate and the lieutenant governor says, yeah, it's okay. Those are the two conditions and prerequisites I would see. And then, of course, it remains to be seen, Mose, whether or not we get one bill, multiple bills. The Speaker has said we're going to send universal school choice down to the Senate. We're going to pass that out of the House. And I don't know that I've ever heard any inkling on the part of the lieutenant governor to support universal school choice. He has shown some interest in limited public school open enrollment, public-to-public transfer. Limited. But that's it. I've not heard anything beyond that in the school choice realm. With respect to the ballot initiative, you remember last year, Rhino, I think even the House just kind of gave up on it, knowing that, okay, it's not going anywhere in the Senate. So I don't know. I really don't. And then the other couple of others that I think would be front and center that have not been mentioned that I'm aware of by either the Speaker or the Lieutenant Governor. Mobile sports betting is something else. Passed the House, didn't get through the Senate. I mean, something of significance. And then repeal of the Certificate of Need laws. You would think that that would get some attention, given how much on the national stage health care has been really at the top of the discourse list. So we'll see what happens this year for sure. Also, Darren and Jackson, we were talking about people missing their loved ones on Christmas and how that makes it particularly difficult. We try to, of course, remember the good times of those who left us and the good times we had with them and focus on the future. And, of course, Christmas is about children to a great extent. There's just, man, nothing better than seeing a child's face light up with everything that happens at Christmas that certainly influences their senses. It's a thing of beauty. Darren in Jackson says, one of my brothers was murdered on December 20th, 1992, and his funeral was December 23rd. My parents and my family were never the same. Now, every year on the anniversary of his passing, my two surviving brothers plans myself, I think I got that right. My two surviving brothers and myself have a conference call, I got it, and talk about and remember him. That's great, Darren. Appreciate you sharing that. And, man, sorry to hear about the loss of your brother to a murder. That's just unthinkable, especially more pronounced even when it's so close to Christmas. Christmas shouldn't be about the loss of life. It should be about new life. And that's what the birth of Christ certainly represents. Thank you for sharing that, Darren. I know that was tough, and God bless you, man. Let's see, Ben from Madison, curious to know if Senator Wiggins has any thoughts on the Trump administration rescheduling marijuana and if he thinks the legislature will reschedule marijuana at the state level. I understand if that issue doesn't come up in the conversation. Yeah, I've got that on the list. I appreciate that, Ben. And I think just to let folks know why that would be something of interest to the senators, because he does serve as the chair of the Senate Judiciary A Committee. Now, I guess, Rhino, where that such a measure would likely be assigned from a committee perspective, I guess the question is, I'm not totally familiar with rescheduling at the state level. What is that? What would that mean? What would that entail exactly?
It would take reworking the medical marijuana statutes
to be consistent with the federal. I guess.
Because the whole reason you have a standalone industry is because it was Schedule 1 at the federal level, which meant that none of the usual infrastructure for medicine, such as pharmacies, could be used because it was against the DEA regulations and policies. Well, by rescheduling it to Schedule 3, it's basically on par with some anti-anxiety medications as far as the ability for it to be sold to the public. And I don't know what the appetite is. I would imagine it's not much of an appetite from the pharmacy side of it to get involved. So we probably won't see legislation shaping it to where pharmacies are going to start selling marijuana flower out of the drive-through. But there will need to be some tweaks and some changes to the language, I would imagine, in the current statutes just to keep it up to date with what is the federal viewpoint and standpoint on marijuana.
So would this probably lead to changes at the state level concerning possession and the consequences of that from a legal perspective, and other laws just related to marijuana? So that it could be something, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you would still face legal issues if you were caught with those same anti-anxiety medications I was just talking about.
Yeah.
If you were caught with those and you weren't prescribed them, that's still against the law.
Okay.
So if you were caught with marijuana and you claim it's medical marijuana, but you don't have any recommendation from a doctor or no prescription from a doctor, then you're still illegally in possession of a controlled substance.
Yeah. Got it. Makes sense. Let's see what else we got here on the C Spire text line. Subject, Roger Wicker. Hey, give him a shout out. He was getting gas next to me a few minutes ago. He's headed home. Thanks. Huh. Interesting. It's on the C Spire text line from the 601. Paula Meridian says the writing is on the wall. Let's just go ahead and legalize marijuana and tax it and regulate it. Well, several states have already done that very thing beyond what we've done here in Mississippi, which is to permit the sale and use of it for medical purposes with a medical card. But about half the states now, I think, have enacted legislation permitting recreational use of marijuana. I think 34, 35 medical and roughly half recreational. Yeah, I think, Paul, within 5 years, nationwide is my opinion. Not really sure if I support that, but I think that's where we're headed. We're coming right back with Caleb Saylor. Stay with us.
Carter Jeweler.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert, here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. Thanks so much for joining us. It's kind of weird because we got one day sandwiched in here between the weekend and the holiday of Christmas yesterday. But now it's Caleb Saylor's multimedia journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News.
A couple of days not hearing that.
I know.
A little interesting. I know it's weird coming back to work on a Friday after having, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off, and I woke up. I'm like so disoriented. Like, what day is it? Where am I? Who am I? What's going on? But it's good to see you, Gerard. Hope you had a Merry Christmas.
I did. I can tell you that right when I parked this morning, it's the three of us and about two other people in this building.
Yeah.
Right?
I know the office is kind of quiet right now. I'm like kind of eerie.
All right. We had the Mississippi Highway Patrol, Captain Chris Turnipseed, on this morning giving us a wrap-up concerning the busy holiday travel weekend. How are we doing?
So, right, have you seen an uptick in law enforcement on the roads in Mississippi? That's because the Highway Patrol is in its travel enforcement period, which is concluding tonight at midnight, or has concluded at midnight. Everything is running around full circle for me, Gerard, with all these days with getting here on Friday. But I was driving personally along I-55 north yesterday and south. I went to Carroll County and back here to Jackson, and look, I saw a ton of law enforcement on the road, and you know what? That made me not speed, and so y'all drive safe, of course, but if you notice, that is because the Highway Patrol is in the middle of its Christmas campaign to make sure that people are wearing seatbelts, not speeding, not drunk driving, and it looks like hopefully it's a better year this year than last year, but The one caveat there is there may be more traffic stops reported because this is supposed to be a record travel week or season. This year. We're supposed to see a record, not only nationally, but even in Mississippi. We're expecting to see a record number of people who traveled at least 50 miles away from their home. And I was part of that statistic. I traveled more than 50 miles away in Girard. I saw a ton of police. I will reiterate that.
Me too.
And look, as we get ready for the new year, too, the same thing will happen. The Highway Patrol will be gearing up for New Year's traffic. And I can guarantee y'all, for you people that like to wear red and powder blue and you're going to be traveling south next week, be prepared that Mississippi Highway Patrol is not going to be messing around. And they don't care if you're going down to watch the Rebels in the historic college football playoff run. You need to buckle up and make sure you're driving safely. But we'll get full numbers whenever MHP sends them out, and we'll have everybody up to date at SuperTalk.fm.
What did Mississippi turkey hunters get for Christmas?
Well, they're going to have to pay a little more money to hunt, but it's a good thing. Starting January 15th of this coming new year, the wild turkey stamp will be in effect. So ahead of the spring season, hunters 16 and older will have to purchase a stamp to hunt turkey in Mississippi. So it's $10 for locals, and for out of state, it's $100. But the big thing here with the turkey stamp, Gerard, is that it's going to go toward conservation efforts, which is huge, right? Because if we don't have turkeys to hunt in Mississippi, what good is the turkey hunting season? What good is the deer hunting season if there's not deer to hunt? What good is the duck hunting season if there's no ducks to hunt? And so part of this is just to invest in efforts to keep the migratory birds coming to Mississippi, keep all of our natural habitats afloat, make sure everything is running smoothly there. And it's going to be a special permit, and all these proceeds, again, going to be to protecting wild turkey populations. And the stamp looks really cool. So a local artist, Johnny Granberry is his name. He won the Wild Turkey Stamp Art Contest, which was put on by the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And if you go to our website, supertalk.fm, there's this beautiful drawing. It's a wooded area with a couple of turkeys on it, and that's what's going to be on the stamp. So that way they can, you can monitor your turkey, what you hunted. And along with the turkey stamp purchase, too, hunters are going to be given 3 harvest identifiers. So it'll go to the game check system, and they can locate their bird, the turkeys that they hunted, and the harvesting methods and everything. So it's really more than just getting the turkey stamp. There's a lot more to it, too, and it's kind of technologically driven. It's cool to see how, as technology modernizes, so does hunting. And something that has been done since the beginning of mankind is modernizing as well. So it's really cool. It's a big win for Mississippi. I know a lot of effort went into getting this turkey stamp passed. A lot of the legislature made that available this past session, and Governor Tate Reeves signed it into law. It'll be a big win. I know some may not like that they have to spend a little extra money to hunt, but when they realize what it's for, the purpose for it, I've talked to several hunters about this. They're like, oh, yeah, I will gladly pay $10 to make sure we still have turkeys in Mississippi, to make sure our habitats are protected.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so the bowl season is underway. Southern Miss traveled to New Orleans to take on Western Kentucky on Wednesday. How'd that go?
They won a half of the game.
Yeah.
The Gold Eagles won the first half of the game, and then Western Kentucky has a quarterback who didn't start the game. He came in late in the first half and started the second half. Has probably the coolest name of any quarterback in college football, Maverick McIver. What a name, right? He's probably my starting quarterback on the all-name team. Came in and kind of torched the Golden Eagles in the second half. The Golden Eagles really didn't have any offense in the second half or throughout the game. The offensive line broke down a ton. So the Golden Eagles lose to Western Kentucky 27-16 in the New Orleans Bowl. Not the greatest start for new head coach Blake Anderson, of course. A lot of these players were signed under Charles Huff, who was the former Golden Eagle head coach who's now at Memphis. And so, I will say, though Southern Miss lost the game, I've talked to some Southern Miss people. My dad's a huge Southern Miss fan. He was like, look, son, I'm just happy we were in a bowl game this year, honestly. Yeah. I mean, the turnaround. The team went 1-11 last year, and then to get 7-5 and get to a bowl game is huge. It's monumental. And then to play in a place like New Orleans where – there's a big Southern Miss contingency in the South Mississippi and Hattiesburg area and even going into Louisiana. So easy for fans to travel to and get to watch the black and gold compete in the bowl game. So although the team lost, there were a lot of positives there that, Southern Miss football is heading back in the right direction. That the 1-11 days, those dog days are over, and hopefully, Blake Anderson can lead them into the new horizon and kind of pick up where Charles Huff left off and continue that momentum. Now, again, losing the bowl game is obviously not the best result ever. However, there's a lot of optimism in Hattiesburg, and I think they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, seems like it. Honestly, I thought it was a pretty good game. I thought both teams performed well.
Yeah, the Golden Eagles, man, that offensive line just was they couldn't run the ball. Yeah. And Braylon Braxton, every time he took a snap, he had 2 or 3 defenders in his face too. So I thought he made the most of it. They're going to have to build that offensive line for the future. I'm weird. I get really ticky when I'm watching football, and I notice some things, and that was one of the things I noticed the whole time was, man, that offensive line just getting whipped. But it was good. It was refreshing to see the Golden Eagles playing in a bowl game because, I grew up going to Hattiesburg a ton for games, and when Jeff Bauer was coach there, they were in a bowl game like 13 straight years or so. To see them have this long hiatus of not playing postseason football was kind of sad. It was good to see that it was returned. That, not only is Ole Miss on a historic run, Mississippi State's back in the bowl conversation, but it's good to see Southern Miss as well. It's a big win for Mississippi.
I think the future's bright for the Golden Eagles.
I hope so. I know Blake Anderson was eager to get that job, and I know he wants to make his stamp on that program, and so we're all rooting for him.
And I know you track the Rebels, as you do all sports inside the state, headed down to New Orleans.
Yeah.
What do you think? Thursday?
Yeah, so New Year's Day. That'll be fun in the Big Easy. You going to go to the game, Gerard?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Well, I hope I'll see you down there. I'll be down there, of course. I'll give everybody full coverage at SuperTalk.fm. But, yeah, so it'll be interesting because Ole Miss is the only team in the playoff right now that's playing back-to-back teams that they faced earlier in the season. Because the Rebels beat Tulane on Saturday, historic first-ever college football playoff game in the state of Mississippi. And now playing Georgia, a team that, beats Ole Miss by 8 points. Georgia was on the better end of a 17-0 swing late in that game. The offense for the Rebels kind of broke down in the fourth quarter. So I think it's an opportunity for Ole Miss, one, not just to get revenge, but to show, hey, we deserve to be here. Lane Kiffin may be gone, but we're not. Yeah. Some of our coaches may not be back next year, but we're here right now. And I think it's a big opportunity for Pete Golding as a head coach to kind of look, I have a vision for the future of this program and even for the present right now. We're not going anywhere. And one thing that Pete said after the Tulane game that kind of stuck out to me is he told the team, why not us?
Absolutely.
There's 8 teams left. Why not us?
100%. It's a great attitude. Great message.
And I expect to see a ton of Rebels in New Orleans on New Year's.
I think it's powder blue, right?
Yep, wear powder blue. You got your powder blue, get it on.
There we go. All right. Caleb Sailors, multimedia journalist, SuperTalk Mississippi News, has been our guest. Appreciate it, Caleb.
Thanks, Gerard.
Yeah, man. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Callaway's after Christmas.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On Super Talk, Mississippi.
Let's go.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. We are in the Element Wealth studio. Are you thinking about retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006. to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income, growth, and guarantees. Here on this day after Christmas, the Dow in negative territory. Trading is a bit light, as you would expect it to be on the day after Christmas. The Dow's down about 103 points. The NASDAQ showing slight gains when I checked it a minute ago. Let's see where it is now. It's about to pop up here. And the S&P, if I'm not mistaken, may have crossed the line into record territory. The NASDAQ's turned negative. It's down 6 points. It's basically flat today. Typically, we do anticipate the so-called Santa Claus rally with a few days remaining in the year 2025. That's what traders, investors refer to. Usually a bit of a bull market as we approach the end of the year and then rolling right into 26. And guess what else happens in fewer than 30 days if they don't get their old act together? And that is a government shutdown. It's hard to believe that that's another possibility. Didn't we just get through with that ordeal? Yeah, we did. That's the point. And all we did is say, hey, look, keep it going for a few weeks. But what have they done to avoid this situation again? Not really a whole lot, but that's coming up. A mountain of unfinished business faces the Congress when they get back. That's one of them, is that they still got to fund the government. We got a short-term funding bill that ended what was an historic government shutdown in November. Well, that thing comes to an end January 30th. Nothing regarding health care reform, really nothing to any extent concerning so-called affordability. So the Congress is bracing for the 2026 midterm elections, and these are the items on the table. Majority Leader Senator John Thune says, when I became the majority leader, I made it very clear that I was committed to funding the government through the regular order of consideration of appropriations bills. There are 12 of those that would fund the various functional areas of government, not through the big old omnibus bill or these continuing resolutions that are often cobbled together behind closed doors. And this is what he said to the Senate when he sent them all home on December 18th, just a week ago. Quote, the regular order process gives senators from both parties the fullest chance to make their voices and the voices of their constituents heard, which is why I'm disappointed that we'll not be moving to our second package of appropriation bills tonight. That was on December the 18th. Republicans were ready to go, but unfortunately my Democrat colleagues are not there yet. Hopefully they will get there. So just sounds to me like the same song with an additional verse approaching this January 30th deadline for funding of the government. On the C Spire text line, George in Greenwood writes, Mr. Gibert, however much tax revenue the state and cities would reap from sales of marijuana for recreational use would be swallowed up by additional outlays to prosecute crimes, incarcerate convicts, provide expanded safety net for lazy do-nothings, reimburse mental health professionals to counsel, in parentheses, hold the hand of, habitual users suffering from schizophrenia and other psychosis, repair vandalism, bail out bankrupts, and absorb other expenses we are not prescient enough to foresee. I hear you, George, but I would encourage you to consider this. They're already using it. I mean, so whatever the consequences are of use of marijuana is already in place. The fact that the government would legalize it, I don't know that changes it, does it? I mean, as far as the use. It's not legal now, but my gosh, it's everywhere. Everywhere. I mean, everywhere in the country, everywhere in the state. My view is if people want to put stuff like that in their body, they're going to get it. Somebody's going to sell it to them. You know, now, even, Rhino, I've seen a report yesterday about someone in law enforcement along the border talking about how the cartels have now adjusted. It's a war, and the cartels have adjusted to the efforts by the Trump administration to shut down the flow of drugs into the country. So now they're circumventing all the stuff we're doing because the drugs are still flowing into the country. And while I applaud the president for addressing the supply side of drug use, I don't feel like we spend enough time, enough cycles, enough creativity addressing the demand side. Why do people want to put this stuff in their body? Because I believe as long as they want to, somebody's going to sell it to them. They're going to figure out a way to get to them despite our best efforts to mitigate the supply. And the same is true with marijuana. Yeah, it's not legal, but have we seen a decline in the use of marijuana? Heck no. I would say it's on the uptick, and my understanding is from all the reports I've seen by people that know a lot more about this than I do is that the THC content is considerably higher than it was just a few years ago, right? So it's a lot more potent in many cases.
I wouldn't say it's considerably higher than a few years ago, but it's definitely considerably higher than the marijuana that was banned to take away the toy from the hippies.
Okay, that makes sense. So a few decades, perhaps. But I don't know what the solution is, but I feel like we ought to have more of a focus on why do you want to use this stuff? If you, in fact, use it in such a way that does cause you to, as George points out, commit crime. And then that becomes a burden on society. Or it causes you to be lazy and lethargic and just having no interest to contribute to society. Or become bankrupt, as George points out. So, but you know the argument right on the other side is there are a whole lot of extremely successful people that use marijuana regularly. And they would argue, no, it doesn't cause that. I just think that...
And they would also argue that there are a lot of people that have gone bankrupt and lost everything and killed people or injured people or harmed people under the influence of alcohol. And alcohol is perfectly legal.
100%. That's absolutely 100% true. So it's a tough one. I'm not crazy about having to deal with the smell everywhere in public spaces. Just seems like people ought to be a little more respectful in that respect. I know you can go to downtown Jackson. You don't have to go to downtown Jackson. I'm just using that as an example because I was there a couple of weeks ago dining out one evening, and it's like, man, as soon as we got out of the car, it just overtakes you. It's prevalent. When I was in Washington, D.C., at the inauguration, you couldn't walk around the Capitol without just being overwhelmed with it. It's everywhere, right outside the Capitol doorsteps there. So... I'm certainly not, just so you know, George, I'm not advocating for legalization so we can generate tax revenue, honestly. And you know, also, Rhino, there are a number of cases where states have legalized it, and the cost associated with legal distribution and retail sale of it is such that the black market's still alive and well, right? People are circumventing the legal channels because, and it's the same with the medical marijuana use, you know, as we have legalized here in Mississippi. It's expensive. It's not cheap. It's a whole lot more expensive than if you were to buy it through the more historically traditional, conventional, under-the-table means, right? Unrecorded unsanctioned process. So I don't know that it changes a whole lot. The biggest problem I have is that it kind of sends a message to, I think, our young people that, okay, by legalizing it, it's okay. I think we need some context and some explanation and still need to work to encourage people not to get hooked. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Polyumpa, Mississippi.
Are we going to do this?
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Flashing in my rear view, the sheriff said, boy, I should have known it was you. You got 14 people in the back of this truck. I warned you twice and now I'm riding you up. I said, officer, what have I done? He smiled and said, boy, you're having too much fun.
Welcome back, everyone. Middays from the Element Wealth studio. So there is a massive Chinese military buildup that our Pentagon is paying attention to. Nuclear attack posture, a new one implemented by the Chinese, hypersonic missile development, aircraft carrier construction. They've been doing this for decades. But this increase in the shift to nuclear force is a concern. It should be to the U.S. And every year the Pentagon issues an annual China military report. Quote, China's historic military buildup has made the U.S. homeland increasingly vulnerable. China maintains a large and growing arsenal of nuclear, maritime, conventional, long-range strike, cyber, and space capabilities able to directly threaten Americans' security, according to the report from the Pentagon. Wow, that's something we got to be aware of. And then something else to pass on that when I read, I thought, well, why hadn't we been doing this? And that is the Trump administration is going to start seizing the pay of those who are in default on their student loans. They're going to start garnishing their wages. Why hadn't we been doing that? 5 million, it is estimated, student loan borrowers are in default. And the Education Department predicts that could balloon up to 10 million pretty soon next year. So the Trump administration intends to begin garnishing the wages of student loan borrowers who are in a default condition. They should. It's ridiculous. It's another one of those things, is it not, Rhino, with where the not my problem people just don't pursue these folks in default. And they know that. The people in default know that, and they take advantage of it. Well, I'm not going to pay them. They're not going to do anything to me. Unlike a typical creditor, if they were to receive an order from the court to garnish your wages, you can't ignore that. If the employer were to ignore that, they would be in contempt of a court order, and there would be consequences. On the C Spire text line, we were talking earlier about this rescheduling of marijuana that the president is pursuing and how that might affect things in Mississippi or things across the nation. And George had sent us a text that made a lot of sense. George in Greenwood, where he's just expressing concern about drug use, marijuana use in particular, and how that causes problems for society. Crime, laziness, lack of contribution to the betterment of society. And I just made the point, honestly, we already have widespread use. I don't know that legalization changes it. dramatically. I don't know if we'd see like an uptick in the use because it's legal. Maybe. I mean, there may be some people that refrain because they know it's illegal and they don't want to break the law. And then you get into the complicated issues, do you not, Rhino, where employers have policies. And I can tell you from having operated a business in Colorado, one of the first states to legalize recreational marijuana, we still were able to maintain our drug testing policies. So there's this, there's a common misconception out there. Well, if they legalize it, then my employer couldn't continue this policy of requiring drug testing on some interval and using that as a reason to terminate an employee. So I can tell you, there are a lot of jobs where you just can't afford that, right? And that's what we had. We operated, managed not data centers, pardon me. I'm so used to saying data centers. 911 facilities. We had about 75 at the time I sold the company across the country. So you can imagine when you're providing IT support for 911 facilities. That's a life or death situation. And there are certain standards for information technology related to criminal justice. CJIS is what those standards are called. And one of those things is that you had to frequently drug test the employees, mostly engineers involved with supporting the 911 centers. And if they failed, fortunately, we never had a person fail. And that was from Colorado, where I had a lot of those people. We're coming right back with Senator Brice Wiggins after Fox News and SuperTalk News. It's top of the hour on Middays.
Your home. And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert. Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Winter is here again, oh Lord. Haven't been home in a year, oh Lord. I hope she holds on a little longer.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio on this Friday, y'all. We're still waiting to get in touch with Senator Brice Wiggins. So on the C Spire text line, Mose says, Gerard, did you see Senator Cruz's prediction on Minnesota's fraud scandal? He predicted even similar corruption in California, Illinois, and New York. If there was $1 billion in a state of less than $6 million, just imagine how big it really could be. I hear you. Yeah, I did, Mose. And yeah, so several things going on here in my view. The first is, once again, I just have zero confidence in the administration of so-called grants at the federal and state level, which is why I've been a proponent of this. Just cut all grants out. And I know some of this was grants, some of it wasn't. But NGOs have mastered the art of stealing money from the government. Many have. Now, some actually provide some good work for society, but just seems like in general, when you got these 14 different Medicaid programs in Minnesota that have now been flagged as significant for fraud problems, and at first we thought it was $1 billion. Now it's like $9 billion. And yeah, Cruz is saying that we probably got the same thing. So two things. One is terrible IT systems that are used to administer all these programs that are just fraught with holes that allow these organizations to sign up for these programs, receive money from the federal government, even though they're not technically eligible. So, okay, I think the senator says he's got us now. He just sent me a note. So we're Rhino's trying to get in touch with him. So we'll work on that. But yeah, Mose, I hear you and I agree, and it wouldn't surprise me. So it's terrible IT systems that allow this sort of scamming and illegitimate use of this money. That's number one. Number two is, as Rhino likes to say, it's not my problem people that are also involved in this administration that just I think tend to look the other way. It's industrial scale fraud, and where there's big money, there's big waste, fraud, and abuse. No doubt about that. But you got a governor and an administration in Minnesota, as I do believe we have in these other states, that they look the other way intentionally. All right, we got Senator Brice Wiggins joining us now. Hey, Senator.
Hey, Gerard. Happy New Year, and I hope you had a good Christmas with your family.
I did, sir. Same to you. Hope you did as well. We're pleased you could join us today. You, of course, represent District 52. That's Jackson County. Serve as the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And you guys are going to be back in session here in less than 2 weeks. Hard to believe that it's just around the corner. Of course, it's like that every year. We just kind of blow through the holidays, and then, boom, you guys reconvene under the Capitol. So tell us, what are your legislative priorities as we approach 2026?
Well, thank you. And, yes, that is how we kind of go about things. So once we get past Christmas, our brain starts to shift. Actually, we've been working on it since really October. So we're going to be up there starting January 6th. That's when we gavel in, and this is the third year of a 4-year term. So you can expect a lot of fireworks, as they say.
Yeah.
But as far as what's on the agenda, I mean, of course, there's going to be the school choice, and I use that term loosely because it's a very loose term, and I'm on the education committee, so I expect to be on that. As far as my particular issues with my chairmanship on Judiciary A, we are doing a lot at looking at reform in the youth court system, and there's a lot that's going on there, and so we had hearings over the session. I'm sorry, while we were out of session. So we're going to be looking at that, and then me personally as well. I've got a bill that passed the Senate last year, and I'm hoping my colleagues in the House will jump on board. But it's what I'm calling a civics bill. And other states have passed this. The bottom line is this: is that you only need to go on social media and understand that our understanding of how the government works, and particularly separation of powers and checks and balances, is at a low ebb, and we need to get back to talking about the Constitution and understanding how things work. And so that's to teach civics in the high school grade. So that's what I'm looking at.
So would there be any consideration, Senator, related to that, of requiring that a student pass some sort of civics proficiency test to receive their degree and graduate from high school? Well, so to the point about a test, like an end of graduation test, no, there's nothing like that. But the bill is drafted as it was last year, is to actually have coursework. Okay. To have coursework and to make it a grade to do that, because and speaking of Christmas, I got as a Christmas present a couple books related to the Constitution. One of them is I forget the name of it right now, but one of it is talking about the amendment process to the U.S. Constitution, and how our founders actually, when they put forward the Constitution, they put in the amendment process. And in fact, there's two ways to do it. Unfortunately, we have not, as a country or as a Congress, done amendments to the Constitution, and our founders actually put it in there to allow us to do it. So, it's something that we need to be looking at. Okay. Well, that makes sense. So what else is on your agenda in JudA? We were just talking about the president issuing this executive order which reschedules marijuana and how that might affect law here in Mississippi. Is that something that you're thinking about addressing?
Not me particularly. If we get so just to give a little bit of insight into the Judiciary A Committee, it's the committee that I say has jurisdiction over many of the legal and law issues, and it has one of the highest referral rates in terms of bills, and so we could see that it would, like scheduling of drugs could fall under that committee, though we do have what's called Drug Policy Committee.
Right.
And so I've not heard anybody talking about it, but I will say this, that when we had the debate and the discussion on the medicinal marijuana bill, a lot of that came up, and there have been folks that have argued for it being scheduled a different way.
Yeah.
I've talked to scientists, I've talked to doctors, I've talked to law enforcement, and, there's a debate that surrounds around that. So what I think the president did is not a bad thing. I think, here's the thing, to actually reschedule it officially, Congress has to do it. Just like in the legislature, we have our own schedule of drugs, and we would have to do it. So, I don't think it's the panacea that a lot of people think it is. However, I think the symbolism is important. And if you talk to a lot of folks on the libertarian side of the spectrum, they welcome this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it does seem to be gaining in popularity. Rhino and I were just talking about it. I think about half the states have legalized marijuana for recreational use, and now the president rescheduling. There does appear to be some momentum, and I think several other states have either referendums or bills that they'll be considering to move in that direction as well. I've never really heard that there's an appetite, however, Senator, in our legislature, and you're there every day during the session, I don't know that any bills, right, have gotten any traction that would make marijuana legal for recreational purposes in Mississippi.
No, they haven't gotten traction, but I will say this, that when we were having the debate, because I'm also on the Public Health Committee, and a lot of this went through the Public Health Committee.
Yeah.
And when we were discussing it and debating it, part of the presentations that we heard was that literally every state that started with medicinal marijuana ultimately at some point went to recreational marijuana.
Gotcha.
And then, so look, the videos out there, the YouTube videos out there, I said, well, if that's what happens, why are we not just going ahead and considering that? I'm not saying it got much traction. I'm not saying I was promoting it. I was saying we were having the discussion because if your numbers are right, 50%, well, that tracks what's gone on in every other state in the country.
Hey, Senator, hang on. We got a break. If you stay with us.
Yeah.
All right, we got Senator Brice Wiggins coming right back.
Attention, adoring fans!
It's time for Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I'm single condition, a symptom of life.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Well studio. We're visiting with Senator Brice Wiggins. He represents District 52. That's Jackson County. Serves as the chair of the Senate Judiciary A Committee. So wanted to circle back to you, Senator, about this school choice issue, and mainly because the Speaker of the House, Jason White, as you know, has pronounced that this is his top priority, that he intends to get a universal school choice bill through the House and send it down to the Senate. I mean, it could happen within a couple of days after you guys gavel in, but, historically, school choice bills have found an early grave in Senator DeBar's Education Committee. What do you expect this year?
Yeah, and I'm going to answer your question. Let me say, you had asked at the start of the interview things going on in JudA. One of the things that had not anticipated, but actually is now there is the potential redistricting of the Supreme Court district.
Yeah.
And Judiciary A. As you may know, we handled court redistricting for the last 2 years, and so this federal opinion came out and kind of sent me asking questions and speaking with the Lieutenant Governor's office. I also saw the Lieutenant Governor Hoseman called on, I guess, the election board to appeal it. Anyway, that could be if that's actually going to happen, then that's what we're going to be tackling, which we did not expect on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a phenomenon, as you know, that is going on across the nation.
Yes.
We're not unique in Mississippi there.
No, and there's there's the Louisiana case, there's the other case, and to be honest, I've asked the lawyers to look into it. It's as to, is this really going to be, are we really going to be doing this? Anyway, just know that it could be, it could be significant, and so we're going to be taking on that. But back to the school choice, and yes, you're right, it could come first, but I think the Senate also, I know we have a version of school choice reforms, and I use school choice in a very broad term because 40 states have some version of school choice. We have down here on the Gulf Coast, we have a version of school choice where, for example, if you're in Moss Point, you can pay a tuition fee and go to Pascagoula, or if you're in Gulfport, you can pay to go to Ocean Springs. So you have that. As far as you said it dies in the Senate committee. Well, a lot of that is, the votes just may not be there. You've heard Speaker Johnson in the U.S. House say, we just don't have the votes.
Right.
Well, maybe the votes aren't there. I think that Chairman DeBar gets an unfair blame in that sense. I mean, a chairman being a chairman is not going to bring up something that the votes aren't going to be there. And there's a lot of work that has to be done. But so as I've said before, there is no bill at this time. Like, nobody knows what the bill looks like, particularly the one that the Speaker's been talking about. He himself has said we don't have a bill. So there's a lot of speculation going on right now. And, in some ways, I think it may be premature other than to have the discussion that the topic's coming forward. But we owe it to have this discussion. And we're going to do it. I will say this, from when I was first on the Education Committee under Lieutenant Governor Reeves, one of the best things we actually did was the consolidation of school districts across the state. If you actually want to get into what saves money, what is best for kids, what is financially the right thing to do, consolidation is that. And I would like to see us start looking at that again.
I don't recall that legislation. How many districts were consolidated under that measure you just discussed?
I'm not sure of the numbers, but there were quite and it was up in North Mississippi.
Okay.
There was one I think it was the Cleveland School District. There was
That's
one
right.
in the Pontotoc area. And mind you, that was done where the legislature I'm not going to say forced, but made the decision to do it.
Yeah.
And as an example, Gerard, there was like one county that had like 5 school districts and a total of like 200 kids.
Yeah.
In the school districts. And I mean, we're paying. So my point is that we need to look at those type of things as well, and have the discussion on the other bills that come forward.
Sure. I think most out there, including me, would agree that we do need to explore a consolidation strategy. We've got, 142 districts and 82 counties, and just as you pointed out, there are several cases around the state where the districts are quite small, but they still have that kind of back office fixed overhead that you got to have, whether you're running a district with 2 schools in it or 20. There's just a certain amount the back office piece you got to have regardless. And so I think there's an appetite for that. I know there's an appetite for that in the House as well. Maybe you guys can get something done. And I'm certainly not trying to hang everything on Senator DeBar, but I think you'd have to agree, Senator, you know him pretty well. I don't think he'd vote for any school choice measures at this point. I don't. So maybe I'm being unfair to him for calling him out, but I'd also say this. I think we ought to change law that requires committees to vote on measures and not just allow the chairman to pocket veto them.
Well, look, those are two completely separate things. Taking your latter one first, I mean,
sure.
This is the way, not that just because you've done it that way, you need to continue doing it, but that's the way the rules are set up, both in the House and the Senate, and so the next elections, we can look at the rules.
Sure.
On the school choice, on what you were saying about Senator DeBar, I would disagree. I go back to what you say about what is school choice. What is the definition of school choice? Now, in my discussions in my area, it depends on who you're talking to. Some people think school choice means unfettered voucher system. Other people say school choice is what we have down here, where you can go from Moss Point to Pascagoula, even though you live in Moss Point. That's school choice. So what would Senator Chairman DeBar vote for? I think it depends on what the bill is. We have, I think, portability, what we call going from one district to another, would occur.
Yeah.
One of the things that the Senate has been talking about are what we call specialty schools. One of the things that we have, and this is an example in Jackson County, is you have 5 school districts, and when it comes to your severe special needs kids, they send all their kids to the special needs school. Is called the exceptional school, run by the Pascagoula Gaucher School District, and they've all done that on their own. And so what the Senate is looking at is what we call specialty schools. It's probably STEM. It can be an art school. It can be this to incentivize districts to have these kids to go to specialty schools and benefit the kids that are there. So that's a version of school choice.
Sure. And we already have, I don't want to interrupt you, but you're aware, we already have education scholarship accounts for special needs kids. There's been some issues with the funding of that. I think a lot of that got cleaned up. And for dyslexia. So those have been around for over 10 years. And I agree with you. I just want to point this out. Well aware that when you use the term school choice, it's a very broad term that refers to, in general, just a series of different policies and just laws, I guess, if you will, that would allow parents to choose the school setting of their choice. But that could come in multiple forms, as you point out, from public to public, like you have in Jackson County, all the way up to vouchers to attend private schools, homeschool, charter schools, etc. And I agree. You guys can write it any way you want that can get through the chambers and to the governor's desk and into law. But at this point, though, the speaker says it's going to be universal school choice, meaning everybody who's got a child in the K-12 age would have control over the state funding to choose to divert it and apply it to the setting of their choice.
Well, if that's the House bill, then that's their choice, and then that's why we have a process.
Yeah.
And so, I do know that there's an old saying, Gerard, you've probably been around, legislating is the art of the possible.
All right.
And so, but it's also, there's impossible, and that goes back to my point about, are the votes there? Is it there? So I think, sure, if he wants to do that, great. And I think it's worth pushing. The question becomes, can that make it through the legislature as a whole? And we'll just have to see on that. That's why we need the bill before us to do that. But I wanted to also mention on that. Look, this is Brice Wiggins, Senator Brice Wiggins.
Yeah.
I go around. I've been in Harrison County. I've been in Jackson County. I've been in Hancock and George County. I do not have people coming up to me asking me and telling me do school choice.
Okay.
The reality is when you look in those down in, let's just call it South Mississippi.
Hang on, Senator. We got a break. We'll continue this on the other side if you can stay.
Okay.
All right. We got Senator Brice Wiggins. Stay with us.
Carter Jewelers.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
Now, on to the real part.
Dynamite! On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We're back with you from the Element Well studio. We're visiting with Senator Brice Wiggins from Jackson County. All right, Senator, please continue your thought before we got to the break there.
Yeah, Gerard, thanks. I was saying that, down where I'm at, every school district in I call it South Mississippi, is an A or B school district.
Right.
And so you don't have, just on a general level, you don't have people clamoring for school choice or whatever. And I would actually submit that even if we did whatever the school choice is, I think people are satisfied and happy with the education that is being delivered down here. So I think the question on a lot of this is, what are we needing and where is this going? And I've said, I've used as an example when I've spoken to folks in Ocean Springs, what about that child in Yazoo City who's been stuck in that place, and they're not getting the education that they deserve? And so we need to look at what's going to work and where we can go with it. And let me say, I am not, before anyone gets some ideas, I am not about the status quo. I've voted for every single education reform bill that's come before since I've been there. I think we just need to look at things and understand what it is that we are trying to accomplish, and go with it from there. In addition to, let's have a debate on, wide open school choice to something less.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. There are various degrees of school choice, various aspects of it, from the kind of entry level, if you will, option of choosing a different public school than the one that your address is assigned to, and even that can be restricted. The lieutenant governor, as you know, has indicated an interest in that policy vis-a-vis D or F districts. He actually said failing districts when he was on the program with us last discussing it. And he kind of used the district and school sort of interchangeably. There's a difference, as you know, between an F district and an F school. You could have a district that has a higher overall grade than F, but a school within that district might have an F. So not clear kind of what his position is on that. And then there's the use of public money that a family could use, I should say, to direct that to a private school setting or a homeschool setting. And then there's the charter schools, which, as you know, are restricted now to the lower performing school districts, and we can't put charter schools in A and B districts, for example, and even C districts in Mississippi. So there are all kinds of different aspects to it. You're absolutely correct in pointing that out. And I think different members of the legislature, it's fair to say, have an appetite and have a different position often on those various aspects. Would you agree with that?
Oh, well, certainly. And as you're kind of seeing, a lot of it comes, or not a lot of it, but a lot of it comes from where you are in the state.
Sure.
And that was kind of the point I'm making. And so who is it? I'm being honest when I say that my email inbox and my, when I go to town halls and do that people are not clamoring for a voucher school choice program where I'm at.
Yeah.
And so where's this coming from? Where's the speaker's desire for a wide open, let's just call it a voucher school choice? Where is that coming from? I think we have to ask. But when we see the bill, that's what we need.
Okay.
That's what we need to look at. But we have a lot. We've made tremendous strides. I've been part of that. I've been happy and thrilled to be part of the education committee for the success that we've had. We need to continue to climb the mountain of education success. and not doing the status quo gets us there. There's just that's why we have these discussions in the legislature.
Sure. Oh yeah,
to see what can get us there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it should be interesting to see how that flows. The speaker again has said he's going for broke. All the way through universal school choice, which, like I said, essentially means every family with a student in the K through 12 age would have access to the state funding appropriated for that student, about $7,000, and direct it to the setting of their choice. Is kind of his goal, his vision.
Gerard, if that's the case, who's accountable? Who's going to be checking that my public dollars or your friend's public dollars or your dollars that you pay in are not being diverted to some bad place or something like that?
The market.
I mean, the market.
Yeah, sure. That's how all consumption in dollars are easily moderated and accounted for. It's the market. There's no better system of accountability than consumers. Government pales as comparison in consumers. My viewpoint.
Well, and look, I 100% support the market. I would argue, though, that education is more than just a commodity. It is actually something that you have to look. It's what people argue about healthcare.
Right.
Okay, I've learned that. So I'm not sure that the market is the justification to bring accountability. If that was the case, all of our government would be handed over to the market, which some would argue that would be the right thing to do. I don't need to run down the list of funds that have been misappropriated by officials and so forth and people.
Sure. Well, I think the difference here is we're talking about the amount that is being paid into the system by these families. But everybody consumes in the state of Mississippi and pays sales taxes, for example. So it's not like they're using other people's money here. They're using really, in general, the money that they too have paid in. Some have paid in a whole lot more than that. Maybe some have paid a little less. But everybody does contribute to the revenue pie through sales taxes, which are the biggest line item of revenue.
But your school taxes are paid by your property taxes. And if we want to get into that, places like Pascagoula and, Harrison County, they locally set their millage at 50%, 55%, which is the highest. And so they're saying, hey, we're going to max out what we contribute. Now, there are places in this state who choose not to do that. And so the argument is made that those areas have chosen not to support education to the degree that other places have.
I acknowledge your point, but private schools don't get any local taxes here. And the school choice program, you wouldn't direct any of the local taxes collected, ad valorem taxes that are earmarked for public school districts. None of that would follow the child, only the state portion here.
But that's right. But I've always said this. I've said private is private and public is public.
Okay.
And private schools, when they set up, they knew that was the case. And if you've seen the debate coming out of the House, as I watched it, the private association, they were very reluctant because they didn't want, quote, strings attached to the receiving public dollars.
Sure.
I have in my area, I have Resurrection Catholic School. From what I've heard, I've not had a direct conversation. They've never asked for that because they like being where they are. They don't want the restrictions or the strings or whatever that goes along with receiving public dollars.
Right.
And so they're happy being private. So that's why I ask, who is it that is asking for this? Because when I talk to private school people, I like being private. It is my choice. I want to be private. I don't want to be tethered to the government, and that is the American way.
Sure.
So I question, or I ask, who is it that is wanting public dollars and also want to be private, but they're not against having the strings attached?
I got you. Well, you're probably aware there are a number of polls that indicate that most Mississippians do support school choice policies. And the speaker has referenced those as well. And, there's policy advocates around the state that also have. Do you think there's an issue with the polls, perhaps?
Well, I haven't seen those. So I will say this, that poll, and I've used polls to my advantage, and I see those. I think they're a snapshot in time.
Yeah.
I also think that they're how they're worded, and I also think that yes, I think it is a popular opinion. I think it's like when you get it, what are the details? When you get into the details, and then people start, people's opinions kind of change depending on the details. That's why having the bill itself, because then you can answer those questions. And I, for one, go through the bill and say, here's what this is. Let's try to address these questions. I would also say that when the bill comes out, it's usually not as bad, or it's not even bad for those who tend to be scared of what may be coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I understand. That's fair enough. Well, you guys will be taking this up pretty soon. I certainly appreciate you coming on and enjoyed the discussion. I think it was open and frank, and I always appreciate that about you. So certainly we'll be talking some more once you guys get here in Jackson to the Capitol. I'm sure I'll see you around as well, and I look forward to continuing this discussion and getting an update as the session progresses. Appreciate it, Senator. Have a happy New Year.
And Gerard, thank you. I appreciate you keeping the discussion going, because these are the things. This is how we advance our state and have an open and honest discussion about things.
Amen.
So I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Appreciate it, Senator. Thank you.
Okay.
We're coming right back with the final segment of Middays from the Element Wealth Studio.
We've sent that rib.
You know what that means.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
We'll do it live
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
That's Don Brewer on the drums and lead vocals. He a member of the band the Grand Funk Railroad from Flint, Michigan. Okay, so on the C Spire text line, Mo's, let me get to this one first. Ben from Madison. Yikes, sounds like it's a real long shot at Universal this go-round. We're really going to need Trump to get involved if we are going to get it across the goal line. Yeah, so I think that Senator Wiggins represents the views and the positions of many in the Senate and, honestly, many in the House. The difference is you got the leader of the House, the Speaker, who is championing this legislation, and typically you'll get members that will go along and support, even though maybe they're not for it. It just depends. And it, of course, depends on their district and their constituents' position and so forth. In the Senate, I think in general, Rhino, you would agree, we have a lieutenant governor, the president of the Senate, if you will, that does not. And that gives cover to the members, and it influences the members. And that's why I think this is tough. Now, like I said, he has indicated some interest, although I'd say it's tepid interest in
lip service at this point.
Open enrollment, public to public, but limited on some basis. He has indicated he's way more concerned about truancy. We do have a high truancy rate and teacher pay in the state of Mississippi. He's indicated those are his priorities. Nothing about school choice. The truancy, holding families accountable, I just have to point this out again. Every time I hear that, what families? That's the fundamental problem, is we have this breakdown and we don't have solid nuclear families. Now, again, I got to always include the caveat that doesn't mean there aren't great single-parent households or households where a child's being raised without a parent. There's just a caretaker. Sometimes it's a relative. And they do fantastic. They thrive. But they're in the minority. It's just a more difficult path. And I think if we've got kids not going to school, does it just not sound crazy to me that, we got to go hold the people who are raising these kids accountable? My gosh, it's pretty fundamental. When you're K through 12 age, you go to school. We have to hold them accountable? What are you going to do? Call them in? Make sure your kid goes to school. We're going to hire a bunch of truancy officers and go round them up in their homes? It's a deeper problem. That's kind of the symptom that's evident, but the core problem is deeper than that and more behind the scenes that nobody seems to talk about. I mean, we've shared the numbers. 45% of the kids in the state live in fatherless homes. 56% of the kids are born out of wedlock. 57% of children, live births, covered by Medicaid. That's where we ought to be focused because that's what leads to, ultimately, truancy. I guarantee you if you looked at all that, you did an analysis, regression analysis showing correlation, guarantee you there's a correlation there. I'd be hard-pressed to think there's not. Not 100%. I'm not suggesting that. But I get it that the senator says, yeah, the people in my district aren't clamoring for this. Yeah, because you got great schools. And when he brings
the
up...
other thing with truancy you have to keep in mind is you have a majority of students still in school that were in school during COVID where some teachers tried their hardest, some teachers phoned it in, and everybody got to move on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It seemed to kind of start a trend, didn't it?
So the typical, I got to be in class or I'm not going to pass, went out the window.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so, I would also ask the question, okay, well, if your constituents they're not pushing this on you, given that this just seems to be consistent with our system of freedom and choice and getting government out of the way, then what's the harm, right? Because as we've said so many times, look, the fact is most parents, most caretakers, most families that have K-12 students in their household, they want them to go to the school they're assigned to. That's just proven fact and has been surveyed a lot across the country. But sometimes there's just a unique situation. Often it's bullying that's the problem. They want to get out because it's an uncomfortable and hostile environment for their child. So, again, your schools are doing great. What are you worried about? You're not.
Well, I would add the point, if nobody's clamoring for school choice, then why is everybody worried about it affecting housing prices and school populations?
100%. He made the point. Out of here, back with you Monday. Stay safe and God bless everyone.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.